getting ready to celebrate 25 years that we've been here in our new building. Those of you who don't know the history, the program started back in 1969 with Dade County Public School teachers. We started off in the hot dog stand where the pipe orders are now. We then moved in 1985 to a trailer in the courtyard. In the year 2000, we raised $4 million and built this new building that you're in, and we're getting ready to celebrate 25 years in the new building. And a little bit about the gallery here. You know, not many nature centers have art galleries, but when Elizabeth Plater-Zyberg, she designed the building, and when we were getting ready for the ribbon cutting for the new building, all the walls were white. As you see, they're still the same color that she designed them. And for someone who loves color, for anyone that knows me, you can usually see me a block away. We called Clyde Butcher. Clyde Butcher was good friends with Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, and he filled the whole place with his beautiful black and white photography. And after about 6 months, he needed to take his photographs to another gallery, and that planted the seed that if Clyde Butcher would put his paintings or his photographs here, we could have other artists. So in the 25 years, I'm very proud to say that we've had over 100 artists in the gallery here. And some have never had an art show before. They just walked in the door and said, do you think I could have an art show? And we would go and look at their art. And if we thought that it was something people would enjoy seeing here and it had a connection with the Nature Center, we allowed them. So I was tickled when I met Gary and he said he owned Purvis Youngs. My husband and I have some Purvis Youngs ourselves that we've had from the 1970s. So I've been a big Purvis fan for the last 50 years. So anyway, we made it happen, and I'm tickled that everyone's here today. I'm going to turn it over to Gary for a moment. He's going to introduce Barbara, because he's an old friend of Barbara's, and he knows her better than I do. So with that, here's Gary Feinberg.
Thank you, Theo, and thank you for making this happen. Everybody who's here today and who's been in this room since the work's up said it looks amazing. And that's all Theo. When we delivered the work, it was just lined around this room, and I thought we needed a room twice as big, or we had twice as much work that needed to be up. And within an hour or so, she had it all planned out. Her son came, and an hour later, had it all up. So it's amazing, and it does. It's incredible. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for making the center happen. This is one of Miami's gems, the center. People from this place don't know what this is, and it's just incredible. So thank you for keeping it, thank you for preserving it, thank you for making it available. I have 7 days a week this is open, 9 to 4, free to the public. It's incredible, so it's awesome. So thank you. And Tamara and I are really happy to present this show. Tamara Hendershot's back there. So we came out here initially to look at the walls and sort of talk about the show. As we're leaving, we're saying, well, we should have a speaker for this thing. And we'll both look at each other and we said, Barbara. So we called Barbara on the phone and said, Barbara, we're doing the show at the Biscayne Nature Center. You've got to talk. And we didn't give her a chance to say no. Before she knew it, she was on board. So Barbara worked for the Miami-Dade Library System as exhibit services. So she would have done all of the art exhibits and other services, the Artmobile that the library would have done. She would have met Purvis probably around 76 or so. He was a frequent visitor to the library when it was still at Bayfront Park. He would come, he would look at the art books, and that's where they got to know each other. Purvis would loan his works to shows that the library would do, and they developed a great friendship over the years. So she has some great stories. There's nobody better to hear talk about Purvis than Barbara. So I want to hand it over to Barbara now, and again, thank you all for coming, and enjoy the rest of the day. And also, walking around the nature center, you've got to sort of take the trails and sort of see what it's all about. Thank you.
Well, I want to say thank you to Tamara Hendershot and Gary. This is really a pleasure. I mean, I have been involved with Purvis for a long time, but I also have nice feelings about the Nature Center. I was on the original Art Public Places panel, and when they selected Chris Federici to do the sort of, I guess they're bronze, right? Balls outside or surrounded. But anyway, it's a pleasure to be back here, and it's very exciting, all the activity that this center is generating. Information, and Tamara's doing something with her ears. Can you not hear me?
Louder.
Oh,
Louder.
I'm sorry, I'm not a loud person.
Yeah, just a little.
What?
Just get it close to the
Okay, like, is that better? Okay. Well, my Purvis story, it does start in 1973, like Gary said. I was hired by the Miami-Dade Public Library System to initiate the Art Mobile program. The Art Mobile was a 30-foot long van. It was, the outside was painted by Lowell Nesbitt. It was black and white stripes with these really dramatic Florida flowers. And we traveled all around. I guess we did about 6 or 8 exhibitions a year with original artwork. Traveled all over the county, went to a lot of schools, the universities, the colleges, and carried artwork around. But so I was hired in August, and I'm pretty sure I must have met Purvis by September or October of that year. And I met him through Margarita Cano, who was my boss at the time at the library, and she had been head of the Fine Arts Department. And she had seen Purvis come in, and there were a lot of sort of regulars, we called them regulars at the library, that would come in and look at the books, and they'd be there very quietly. But they had sort of a regular routine, and Purvis was part of that group. But she had seen him, but she didn't realize that he was really making art until she went to an exhibition at something that was called the Miami Museum of Modern Art. And that was a 2-story house. It was over in the Omni area. And the man that ran it was a guy named Bernard Davis, who was an internationally recognized philatelist. I always like to say that word. I'm never sure I say it right, but he gave advice to the Vatican. You go there, and there'd be nuns and stuff talking to Bernard about different things. But he had this wonderful space. I'm sure you guys all remember Ruth and Richard Schack. I did an oral history with them one time, and they talked about that Bernard Davis was really an introduction to them to a lot of art. He worked with a lot of artists from South America. He was a patron of Ashland Gorky. Fascinating man, but anyway, he had seen Purvis's work. They were putting I-95 and all the expressways through the middle of Overtown, and you could drive on the expressway, look down, and there was a building that was covered with paintings, sort of like the installation here, which I think Purvis would be delighted to see this, because it's Purvis style. But anyway, Bernard saw the paintings and then stopped and went down, talked to the gentleman who was Purvis, and said, "Do you want to have a show at the Miami Museum of Modern Art?" And Purvis said, "Sure." So he had the show. Margarita went to the show and realized, oh my gosh, this is one of our regulars that comes to the library all the time. And so that was the beginning of the relationship with the library. But over the years, we did lots and lots of exhibitions with him. The library system was really heavily dedicated to Hispanic heritage projects and shows, and also to Black history projects and shows. And so Purvis was in a lot of the Black history shows, but we also invited him to show work in landscape shows, and did a show with the theme of food. Purvis was in that. Artist book shows, he was always available for that. So we, over the years, showed his work lots and lots of different times. And then, I guess, I'm not sure when we met Tamara, but that was in the 80s or something, I guess, Tamara. Yeah.
Early 80s.
Yeah. But Tamara became a big part of his life, and Purvis I know, Purvis would talk about a movie of his life, and it would be a good one, because he had heroes, or angels, that he called them, and in some of the paintings you'll see angels, and he identified people that he knew that had helped him and stuff as angels. But there are also some kind of rascally characters in his story, and which would make a whole book. But you can see all the things. I mean, Purvis was a person who rode around in Overtown on a bicycle. He picked up stuff that he could use in his artwork, recycled all kinds of different things, paper and wood and some interesting things. I remember that he picked up from a print shop that had some kind of litho ink, commercial litho ink, that were stuck together. I think after about 15 years they broke apart, but it was a pile of stuck together paintings that he brought in to show us at the library, because he was always bringing things in. He had a really wonderful friend named Cilo Crispo, who was a Santeria priest, who had a house in Overtown, and Purvis lived with him most of the time, the early part of my acquaintance with him. Later he moved into a situation with a woman named Eddie Mae Lovest, and was very involved with her and her children, and it was sort of a peculiar relationship. But he adored the kids, he adored her, and she was very protective of him, as Cilo was. Cilo tried to steer him away from some of the rascals that were showing up and trying to give him like $100 for 20 paintings and stuff like that. And Purvis was very bad about money. I sort of stuck my nose in his life several times trying to ask him about money and being careful with it. And he would say things like, easy come, easy go. What are you going to do? But he really wasn't concerned with money. He just wanted to paint. And he wanted to paint the things around him, the things that he saw, the things he was concerned about. He was concerned about people not having jobs. He was concerned about the number of people that end up in jail, which is sort of unfairly balanced, I guess, in terms of the Black community. And then the angels that you can see, the buildings, the construction. He was also making books. I don't know if I'm kind of jumping around a little bit, I'm sorry. But he was also making books, but what he would do to make the books was to recycle. And he would find ledgers or address books or large books. There's a beautiful one that Cilo Crispo had, and I don't know what's happened to it, but it was a large book of samples of wallpaper. So it was quite tall and like this. But he would take his drawings and fill these books with the drawings. And so a book that had been this wide suddenly was this wonderful piece of sculpture. The books are fabulous. I have a couple. One is it's kind of sick. It's got lots of drawings in it, and it's not in very good condition. It was originally, I think, a high school annual, but now it's been stretched apart and the back is a bit down. But I did bring one book. It's not really representative of the ones that he was pasting his drawings in. It's got individual paintings on each page. And originally, he was using that crazy material from the printing shop. So when I got this book, the whole thing was stuck together, and I had it kind of off to one side, and I picked it up about 3 years ago, and I realized that finally that ink had dried, and we had a book. But I was really pleased to show this. I did an artist book exhibition at the Daytona Beach Museum about 3 years ago, and this was one of the books I was able to show in it. But I call it Purvis's alphabet book. The other book that I have is called Every Day I See a Truck, and Purvis was fascinated with trucks because they represented activity, good activity in the community, people bringing things in and working and that kind of stuff going on. When I was driving the armor, I wasn't driving. I was riding in the armor. I had a driver. But I think he was very sharp about stuff like that. I mean, he wasn't a person that talked a lot. He was kind of quiet. He was big. When I first met him, he was a little scary. He wore cut off jeans or pants, and he had his sleeves ripped out of his shirt. And he was big. He had wonderful big arms and stuff like that. But he would, and Mr. Davis told him that he could wear whatever he wanted because he was an artist. And so at openings and stuff, he did wear whatever he wanted because he was an artist. But early days, he had a little, like a little little French, what do you call those?
Beret.
Yes, he would pop a little beret on top of his head, and he was dressed up. He was a sweet man, he was a gentleman, he was very sensitive to people, to pregnant women. One time he came into the library and was telling about a cat that he saw that was pregnant, that he was worried about. I mean, he had a big heart, a good heart, and all he really wanted to do was to draw. He was very lucky to run into somebody like Tamara, who was a gallerist, who handled his work and who he enjoyed. I remember, I'm trying to think, do I tell this story or not? Riding in a car with them one time, and Tamara was telling some story. She was driving, and she was looking in the back seat, and Purvis was laughing, laughing, and laughing. I was kind of scared. but she made Purvis laugh, or he, yeah, so I think that's good in an art dealer. A lot of them don't make people laugh. So, I'm kind of bouncing around, so if people have questions or something, that would be fine. Do you have a question? Oh, question, okay.
Did he get to realize his success and what people were getting from his expressions and the things he was saying while he was still alive?
I think in some respects, I mean, he financially, no, because he didn't handle money well, and people that he was dealing with toward the end of his life were not handling things well financially for Purvis. They were doing okay by themselves, I think, but not for Purvis. But the rebels had bought something like 3,000 pieces, I guess, and I think he was pleased that happened, because he was in a warehouse situation that he was filling up, and the fire marshal was not a friend of Purvis.
What was his interest in horses? I've always wondered that.
The horses were kind of magical to him. One time, actually, he painted the exterior of one of our libraries, the Comer Overtown Library. He painted that, and we had a dedication. So we had various VIPs from the county and from the city, because it was a joint project with the city. And Margarita and I thought it was a great idea to have the mounted police come. And we thought Purvis would be thrilled with all these horses, and he wasn't. It just, and later I asked him about it, and he said he doesn't like horses being ridden, and maybe it was he didn't like horses being ridden by the police. I'm not sure. but he didn't.
What was your favorite memory of him?
Oh boy. I remember going to see him. It was really sad toward the end. Tamara and Margarita and I went to see him, and I guess then later Tamara and I went to see him, and it was kind of sad. But gosh, my favorite memory. Wow. Well, I did a show with him for his 60th birthday. It was called Young at 60, or still is, Young at 60. And we had borrowed work from lots and lots of different people, and it was in the auditorium at the main library, which is a nice big space, and had pretty much hung it. And then, like the day before the show, Purvis starts showing up, and the front wall, I think we had 3 pieces, and Purvis started bringing pieces in, until he filled the wall up, kind of like you see here. And I always think of this as a Purvis. This is what Red Alley was, and this is what he did for his 60th birthday at the library. And I think the library probably gave him his first birthday cake. I think we had 3 birthday parties for him. So I mean, he was special. He was really wonderful.
How old was he when he began painting?
The story is that he dropped out of high school, I think, when he was about 15 or 16. I guess you had to be 16. And got into some trouble a few years after that, and was in jail for a while. And decided when he was in jail, he didn't want to be in jail anymore. And the only thing he really knew how to do was to paint. And he'd had an uncle that made art. And he would talk about that a little bit sometimes. So I think it was in his head, but he was dedicated. He was a committed artist. That was all he wanted to do, was to make art. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, as a regular at the library, do you know what his interests were? Yes, what were they?
Well, Starry Night,
Okay,
Van Gogh,
beautiful.
Rembrandt.
Uh-huh.
He he was, those were the two that really stand out in my mind about Purvis. He loved those two books. And he also was interested in National Geographics. He listened to public radio. He was a big fan of public television, the documentaries and stuff. He liked that. So I always thought he had a kind of a wonderful education with the public library, the public radio, and public television. So. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question about preservation and perhaps the people who collect his work. Have you ever been tempted to consider ways to preserve the art, considering some of the medium that it's painted on? And curious to know if he liked acrylic versus oil. There was his favorite art shop that he liked to buy his supplies from.
He didn't. I don't know that he ever really exactly bought art. People would buy. When he painted the Culmer Overtown, the exterior of that library, we made arrangements with, I can't remember the name of the paint company, but it was a company that the county was working with. So we bought the paint for him to do that. People would give him stuff, and he found things. But gosh, I'm trying to think. He probably went to an art store with some people sometimes, but he wasn't a regular Rex art. Yeah. We gave him one time. Okay, this is a Purvis story, if I can tell. One time when we were still in the old library, they were building the Metro Rail, and one of the county photographers had shot a lot of photographs of building the Metro Rail. And in the place that we had the exhibitions, it was on the second floor, and there was a little stage with two little kind of changing rooms on either side of the stage. And this photographer had brought his work in, and we put it into one of the holding rooms on the side of the stage. And Purvis came in. We'd also gotten him some paper and some paint. We put it in the other room. But when he came in, Margarita wasn't there, I wasn't there, and he went into the wrong room. He picked up the photographs that the county photographer had done for the Metro Rail, and he didn't paint on the front. He painted on the back, though. But it was paper, and it was there, and we told him we were getting him some stuff. So. And when he would go to openings, I mean, I remember seeing the Fred Snitzer opening. He would be sitting in a chair and drawing and painting. He just was constant with it. Yes, ma'am.
Do you know how he got selected to be in the National Gallery?
I think people begin to know about his work. I mean, CeeLo Crispo would talk about Mr. Dreyfus from New York, and I remember I had some friends that took slides of some of his work that I took to New York and showed people, but people were early on were beginning to recognize him and know about his work.
Right now at the Whitney, at the Alvin Ailey show, I think there are 4 large Purvis pieces there. It's incredible.
I think that's from the William Arnett collection. Yeah. I haven't seen that show, but I'm dying to go.
Yes.
So. Anything else? I know there are several collectors here.
Thank you, Barbara. That was awesome. As you leave, feel free to take this. This is about 9 pages, Purvis in his own words. So if you wanted to read about what he would say, what he'd think about things, this is a great piece. It's from a book called Souls Grow Deep, and it's great. So these are for the taking. And if we run out, we'll get more. So, anyways, thank you. This was great. Thanks for all the questions.
Can we twist Tamara's arm to come up and say
Yeah,
a few
I'll
words?
Just say hello.
Hi, I'm the other half. Half is Gary's and the other half is mine, but he does all the work. That's why I didn't want to say anything. But
Tell us your favorite
he
story.
was someone I worked with, Barbara, I guess about 15 years. And he was very funny. I mean, he was wonderful. Everything Barbara said is absolutely true. He was gentle, kind, shy, quiet, stubborn. And if I drove him to a lecture, he was lecturing with a group in Tampa, and I volunteered to drive him. But you had to get a lot of stacks of loose leaf notebooks for him and tons of pens, because he would just scribble in them the whole way to Tampa. Now that's not a short way, and we had to scribble, scribble, scribble. And then we were staying with friends overnight, and he did a beautiful thing at the lecture. There were like 4 people speaking along with him, as he did at the University of Miami. Perfectly clear, coherent, wonderful. But then we were staying overnight at a friend's, but I had to replace the sheets and the bedspread and the rug and the curtains in the room he was staying in, because he painted on all of them. So it was an expensive trip for me, but a great one
Yeah, thank you, Tamara. I knew you would have some happy note for us all to smile. You made us all smile. So thank you again all for coming. I'm delighted to see you here. And please tell all your friends, because this will be up, through March. And we'd love for everyone to come and enjoy it. And I'm tickled that we've hung it. When I heard that this is what I said to Gary, we're gonna hang it like Purvis used to hang his art. And so I'm tickled that that's the feeling everyone's getting. So with that, have a wonderful afternoon, have more food and drinks. And now, I wanna hear which painting is everyone's favorite. So if you see me, nudge me and let me know. All right, thanks ever again. Bye now.